We are officially 52 days from the college football season kicking off on August 23rd, and it's time to start ranking every Power 4 team and a few Group of 5 teams as well. I'm going to go from 75 to number 1, and let's kick it off right here, right now with a college football preview. Number 75 on my list, the Purdue Boilermakers. Now for starters, let's get into the stars on this team. At running back on the offensive side of the football, we've got Devin Mockobee. He's going to be the bell cow back. Over his last 3 seasons with Purdue, he's got over 3,000 scrimmage yards. So this is a guy who's been able to produce on the field. I expect more of the same here. Purdue lost a ton of talent in the portal and through the draft over the last couple of seasons. So they're going to be leaning on a guy who has stayed consistent with this team outside of just a few other starters that are going to stick around here with the Boilermakers through all of the tumultuous coaching changes. So Mockobee is the guy to watch for on the offensive side of the football. Defensively, CJ Nanali. Now, Purdue has actually produced some pretty good pass rushers over the last few seasons. I think of a few guys on my list. One of them transferred to Texas A&M last season, got drafted. That's a pretty impressive record, if I do say so myself, with Purdue. So CJ Nanali comes from Akron. He had 6 sacks last year for the Zips, and he's going to have to carry the load when it comes to this pass rush. This Purdue defense is going to need everything they can get from almost every single transfer portal starter. So a few storylines that I want to talk about. For starters, Barry Odom takes over probably the biggest project in all of college football. Now, of course, you could talk about the bell cow, blue blood college football programs, but Barry Odom has got to build Purdue not necessarily into a winner, but into a contender for sure. That's the goal. And they've been one of the worst teams in the Big Ten over the last couple of seasons. In the last decade overall, they only have 3 winning seasons. They had some bright spots with former head coach Jeff Brom, who moved on to Louisville. He's had some success there as well, but since his departure, it's been a disaster. 50-plus transfers outgoing over the last year and a half, and 50-plus transfers coming in. I mean, this is almost a completely new roster. So let's hop right into that new roster. Let's get into the losses and additions for this team. Losses. First off, Marcus Mimbo. He gets drafted out of this year's draft. He was an offensive tackle for the Purdue Boilermakers, did a phenomenal job last year keeping their quarterback upright, but of course he's moved on now to the pros. He's going to be playing on Sundays, but there's been a ton of portal guys that just flat out said Purdue is not where I want to finish my college career. And for starters, probably the best, maybe second best safety in the entire country, strong safety that is, Dylan Thieneman, who transfers to Oregon. In his 2 seasons as a starter with Purdue, 200-plus tackles. He was all over the field for the Boilermakers. I thought he did an insanely good job backpacking the secondary. And so he's gone now. That's a massive hole for Purdue to fill. But there's so much more to get into. Let's go ahead. Max Clare, he's a tight end last year, 50 receptions, 650 yards. I believe he was the leading receiver for the team last year, and he's the tight end. He transfers to Ohio State, one of the best tight ends in the country, according to a ton of different opinionists and columnists all across the Associated Press. Max Clare, that's a guy you're going to be missing. On the defensive side of things, you got Will Heldt. He's an edge rusher, transfers to Clemson. He's going to be a starter, 56 tackles, 5 sacks last year. Once again, massive production loss there for Purdue. And here's the thing. When I'm talking about the production loss here, I'm not talking about somebody who's transferring to UNLV or, to Kentucky or Vanderbilt. I just listed off Oregon, Ohio State, and Clemson. 3 college football playoff teams last year. So Purdue had the talent. The wins just never followed. So let me just continue down this list because there's more losses to get into. DJ Wingfield, he had, I think he started all 12 games last year for Purdue. He transfers to USC. He'll be a starter there. Cole Brever, defensive tackle, transfers to Texas. 23-game starter for the Boilermakers, gone. Wide receiver Jamal I think, yeah, Jamal Edrine, he transfers over to Virginia. He is going to be a starter. He was a massive transfer from FAU this past season that transferred to Purdue. He was expected to produce, never really lived up to the hype that a lot of Boilermakers thought that he would. And so now he moves on to Virginia for a better opportunity there. And then Mohamed Musa, I believe is how you pronounce his name, offensive guard, 30-game starter for Purdue. He transfers through all of this tumultuous coaching overturn year after year, not knowing whether or not this group is going to last to the next season. The coaching staff has had so many changes. I understand from a player's perspective why you would want out of this god-awful program. No offense to the current coaching staff or the athletic director who are newer around the program. It's not necessarily their fault. When coaches leave and take better opportunities, there's a massive power vacuum where tons of other coaches and players are trying to take advantage of that. And honestly, you got to build a strong culture. And right now, Purdue does not have one. Now, on the addition side of things for Purdue, there are, a few potential surprise transfers here that could make an immediate impact for them this season. For starters, Tony Grimes, a former 4-star recruit, kind of bounced around a lot of places, but he got some experience at UNLV. I believe previously he was also at Texas A&M. So, this is a blue chip talent prospect that just really never found his home. And I'm hoping that for Purdue's sake, this is going to be the one where he hits the ground running and becomes a consistent starter for Purdue. Next up, I already mentioned this guy, CJ Nanali, 6 sacks last year with Akron. He's going to be backpacking the defensive part of the edge rush, but somebody that's going to pair with him is Braylon Charles, edge rusher from North Texas, 4.5 sacks for North Texas last year. So 2 of these guys are going to have to make a big impact. Now, somebody that I mentioned earlier that left to go to Texas A&M and then ended up getting drafted, Nick Scorton, was a guy that was at Purdue. He had a phenomenal season a couple of years ago, 10-plus sacks. One of these guys could potentially fill those shoes, but it's a big ask. Obviously, when you play in a conference like the Big Ten, you're going up against Ohio State, Illinois, Michigan. It's hard to get those production sacks, but there are a few guys here that I've mentioned in the portal that's come that can get that job done. Now, last but not least, the guy that I want to talk about last on this additions part of the portal is Nitro Tuggle, wide receiver from Georgia. Never really got to see the field there. Not a lot of experience, but still a former 4-star prospect, somebody that could make an immediate impact. I believe he'll be in the starting lineup here for Purdue this season. So those are 4 impact transfers that will be seeing the field immediately and could make an impact for this team right here, right now. A couple more storylines that I want to talk about, and then we're going to get into our beautiful record prediction. I'm going to do this for every single team. Make sure you guys hit that like button, comment what you think about the Boilermakers season, and of course, be sure to subscribe. So here we go. Last 2 storylines I want to talk about. Will this just become a farm school? We're kind of seeing this all over the country with teams like Kentucky that have a lot of blue chip prospects that end up developing with the program, but then they end up transferring out or getting drafted. For example, Will Levis, Barryon Brown, who never really technically panned out, but the intangibles were off the chart. The tangibles were off the charts with the speed and whatnot. And so he goes and transfers to a big name school like LSU. Is that going to be the same notion that we see here with Purdue? I mentioned all of these ultra talented guys that are going to that have transferred out of Purdue and are going to go be starters at blue chip playoff caliber teams. Can they end up keeping those guys around? I think that's one of the big things that this coaching staff is going to be focused on this season, finding that talent and then figuring out how to retain it. The next thing that I want to talk about, the biggest storyline, is that this schedule is brutal. Purdue has one of the toughest schedules in the country. It's a gauntlet considering their team composite score is one of the worst out of every single Power 4 school. Their win total is set at 3.5, and to me, it's going to be tough sledding to find the wins. And so now we're going to get right into it. I don't have an X factor game for them. I don't really see upset potential with any of their games on the schedule. I'm going to close with the record prediction, so let's just go into each one of these games. First up, Ball State at home. If you told me Purdue lost to Ball State, would I be shocked? Absolutely not. But given the fact that they are a Power 4 team, I've listed off a few impact transfers that are higher tier caliber than Ball State. I will give Purdue the victory there. Next up, Southern Illinois at home. Yet again, I believe they're an FCS, maybe even a Division II team. That's a W there for Purdue. Now, here comes the Big Ten schedule. The problem also for Purdue is that they have to play 9 conference games in the Big Ten. They're the worst team by far in the Big Ten. This is going to be a miserable year for them. Even the games that they could win are on the road, but we'll get to that. USC is a loss. It's at home. Could they pull off an upset? No, I don't think so. That's a loss. At Notre Dame, they're one of the best teams in the country. Not a lot to talk about there. That's a loss. Illinois at home. Now, this is a team that doesn't play high caliber, high scoring offense. So if the game is a low scoring one, could I see Purdue keeping it close into the fourth quarter? Yes, but I'm still going to give the edge here to Illinois. They're probably a top 25 team in my opinion, potentially a playoff team. But, you get caught lacking here in Purdue, in Indiana. You think this is a sleeper game. It potentially could be. So I will still put Purdue on a potential list here, but for now, I'll chalk it up as a loss. So now you're 2-3 heading into at Minnesota and at Northwestern. Now, both of those games, if they were at home, like Illinois, I would give Purdue a much better chance to win or pull off the upset there. But considering that they're on the road, it's really hard to do that in college football, especially in the Power 4. Both of those are losses. Coming back home to Rutgers, this is probably the most winnable Power 4 game on their schedule. I think that they're very capable of beating Rutgers. I still don't think they're going to get it done. So that's a loss. Rutgers has a lot of high caliber players. They're not a well-built roster, but they do have a lot of star potential here. And so I rely on those stars in Power 4 versus Power 4 games, in conference games. And so that's why I have Rutgers winning that one. So now I believe that's 6 losses in a row for Purdue. So they're 2-6 heading into at Michigan. Murder. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's a loss. Ohio State back at home, the reigning national champions. Are they going to lose to Purdue? I mean, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois last year, but if you found somebody that picked that game correctly, tell them to send me their number because I might Venmo them $1,000. They're not beating Ohio State this year. They've done it in the past, but with much better teams. Not going to happen this year. That's yet another loss. At Washington, it's really hard for a Midwest, East Coast team to travel all the way out west, play late at night, of course, in Washington. I don't think that's going to bode well for them. That is yet another loss. And then, of course, the Indiana rivalry game versus the Hoosiers. Anything can happen in a rivalry game, but of course, since I'm saying Purdue is the worst team in the Power 4, that's going to be a loss. I think Indiana still has enough talent to potentially contend for the Big 12 playoff spot, not necessarily the conference championship game, but a playoff spot for sure. So with that being said, my record prediction for the Boilermakers is 2-10. This is yet another extremely disappointing season, but the key for this year is to find the talent on your team that's young and a bit like they're able to develop, and then figure out how to retain them for next year. Could you go 4-8 next year? Absolutely. So the key is finding the talent and then retaining it. This is a 2-10 team, the worst one in the Power 4. Let me know what you guys think of this in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.